Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Digital Marketing Podcast. As always, I'm here with Alex. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hey, no, I'm I'm clearly, according to Rocco's testament, more of a safari ranger today. I just lost my hat, but no, all good, all good. I'm sort of out in the South African Capetonian winelands, where I'm dialing in from.
It's amazing, Alex. And yeah, like I was talking to you about before the call, you look like a safari guy, but it's fitting, you went out and you took a little trip today, so it makes total sense. Here in Florida, we finally have sunshine. It stormed for 2 days, but they knew I needed good lighting for the episode, so I got good weather today for our call, Alex. And today, for all of you that might be wondering about it, we're going to talk about mastering CPC, cost per click bidding, particularly nowadays that AI with intended in optimization and smart bidding is taking place in a very strong fashion in PPC. And I want to start right there, Alex. Right before getting into the CPC, it might be interesting to kind of see how the PPC world evolved, the pay-per-click world. When we first started our careers, the big selling point was that we were very good at optimizing manual CPC bidding to increase or decrease bids based on performance. Then Google was like, oh, you can now optimize for conversions. And manual CPC was still a good strategy, but they implemented an enhanced CPC bidding where Google with the AI would increase the bids when a manual bid was more likely to convert. From there, target ROAS, maximize conversions, smart bidding, they all took place. So I feel like when we all talk to a client, we tell them that the ideal goal is to focus on smart bidding once we have enough data to be able to optimize for conversions. And usually CPC bidding takes the last spot on the ranking. Probably only target impression share is one step below that. Now, have you seen the same trend over the years? Like, this evolution of bidding toward AI, basically.
I mean, of course. I mean, it's I think a two-folded one. I mean, if you recall back in the day, say 15 years ago, I mean, the amount of time that we spent analyzing and doing micro changes on an ongoing basis, and I don't know how many we did on a day-to-day, like on a daily basis. So I mean, you were literally married to Google. It takes time, and to also see what trends and so forth that are in something manual.
Yeah.
So I mean, an AI or machine learning, of course, is supposed to compound learning. So we as marketeers could actually spend time on not sitting and doing small tweaks. So I mean, it's almost like been an evolution. I mean, I think it's only like these last 2 years that things have went really fast, and particularly this year, 2020, where and you will sort of see that sort of rampage path into sort of the world of AI in 2024. But I think we've sort of moved from an algorithmic machine learning way of doing things where we still were partly responsible and we had insights. Now we're in this world where we do not have too much insights and too much control. And we need to almost rely on an algorithm to do things on our behalf. Would be sort of, if you speak to a rep, the sort of the way to go about it. If you were to speak to, I think, Rocco and myself, one needs to validate. One shouldn't just do and sort of not test.
Because what is interesting to me, Alex, is that this comment is gonna come actually in a two parts comment. But let's say I was working with a client that it was having some volume trouble, specifically because all companies in the industry were obviously using smart bidding, and no matter what we did on a bid level on our end, they would try to outbid us all the time, which was basically driving cost per conversion up, not only for us, but for the whole market. So the other day I was like talking to my client and I was telling him, listen, we have 15 keywords that literally generate 90% of our conversions. Why don't we do a CPC bidding? And I'm sure we can pay less for those clicks and they're still going to convert. Even though some clicks might not be as such high quality, because smart bidding does identify within the traffic is more likely to convert. So here is the interesting story. The campaign started performing at the lower CPA, lot of volume. All of the sudden, that performance declined dramatically to the point where we paused the campaigns. Turns out, invalid clicks were becoming an issue. To which point I wrote Google and I was like, hey, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, we know we have a problem that with manual CPC, you're open to invalid clicks. So what did I do? I was like, this is the solution I need. I need manual CPC because I need the client to get that volume and trick the competition into bidding smart. So we installed the software to eliminate IP addresses from where these invalid clicks were generated. We relaunched the campaign. Again, conversions were coming in, right? So on one hand, I feel that to come basically to the point of my discussion here is that CPC bidding in some instances makes total sense. If you know that you dominate a keyword in terms of conversion rate, why should you not be able to get as much traffic as you can for the keyword? But on the other hand side, if you're not smart and looking at why the performance is not there, you might attribute a lack in performance to the fact that you're bidding per click rather than the fact that Google is not able to stop spammers from clicking on your ads and depleting your budget. So I thought it was very interesting because there are some pockets of traffic where CPC is a good strategy. Have you ever encountered the situation where you go for a click strategy and all of a sudden you see all of those weird invalid clicks popping up for you?
I mean, this has even occurred on smart bidding as well.
Yeah.
It's in some the way initially that they were sort of discovered was that even though our campaigns were pointing sort of specific markets driving only clicks from those markets, according to Google Ads, the clicks only came from there.
Yeah.
But when we turn to then Universal, now GA4, all of a sudden we saw that actually those clicks weren't coming from those the markets that we had targeted. They were Saudi Arabia. They were basically known countries that were creating
Yeah.
spam traffic.
Through
Uh,
basically, I think they use what's the name? The virtual machines, right? To fake that they are in the US.
Correct, and therefore they just create a lot of. So therefore, instead of because we as marketeers and the marketing department can also get a very bad reputation internally, because if we start clogging up often those that take over the leads to convert them or sell to them, if we clogged up them with really poor quality, we're also in a they will start questioning our ability in-house. So it's very important that it's being dealt with, and it's being dealt with swiftly. And these type of tools that you mentioned there, Rocco, I mean, they're really good. I mean, they really work well. And I mean, Google will compensate you for those clicks.
But you know what's funny about those tools? When I saw that, Alex, I was laughing. Like my client that had this issue in the past week, when we installed those tools, they were adding more than 500 negative IP addresses per day. Now, that's good. It's working, the tool, right? But guess what? Somebody's got to explain me why Google has a maximum of 500 IP addresses per campaign that get removed. So what the tool needs to do is dynamically remove the older ones to replace with the new ones. And it's kind of funny, right? Because technically, why do I need to have a limit to the IP addresses I don't want to show up for, right? It kind of makes no sense, but that's another problem. You need a tool because it needs to be dynamically done this job.
I mean, I think like you flagging, I'd say that one of the trends for 2023, and like it will be ongoing, but cybersecurity. And I mean, this is one of them. It's just sort of taking play in a different way, but it can cost you quite a bit if you're not on top of it. And if you are sort of throwing yourself into sort of smart campaign or more AI related type of setup like PMax, and you just let it go without really observing, you can waste a lot of money for your company, so the one that you work for, or for your client. So it's important to be observant
Yeah.
and keep tabs of your KPIs, but also some relevant data, such as where do you get the clicks from, where do they convert, uh, speak to your client or the other departments. Are these leads that you're getting, are they converting, or are you just throwing them away?
Yeah, to me, what surprises me, Alex, is that, CPC campaigns, they have the biggest issue when it comes to that, because with smart bidding, it's harder to see the ad, right? That's the whole point. You show the ad to whom is likely to convert. But basically, this issue is deprecating a product that could be good, because again, you might have some keywords that you really do well with as long as you show up. So you might want to use a CPC campaign for those, particularly for exact matches. So my thought is, why doesn't Google create their own IP exclusion tool? Because it's a widespread problem, particularly in CPC campaigns. And I feel that's one of the reasons why people don't use CPC campaigns, because they try them, they don't work, and they say, oh, it must not be a good campaign type. But I always come from a school where I think about things in small pockets. So, for example, if you're talking to me about a CPC campaign, the first thing that comes to mind is, if I know that the keyword works for me, an exact match keyword, Google is a demand driven tool. I'm basically telling Google that I want to have as many clicks as I want for this demand, which is a keyword exact match. Why shouldn't it work? It's not logical for it not to work, because I'm serving a demand. And that's where I think like CPC campaign with an IP exclusion tool on exact match on keywords that you perform well is still a very good strategy nowadays.
I mean, of course. But I think, I mean, again, I think for those that have listened more than once or twice to this little show, I'm always a bit skeptical about Google and sort of where they actually have their best interests. Is it us as marketeers and their end clients, or are their shareholders?
Yeah.
And I mean, in the big picture here, they are shareholders. They're a listed company. They need to make money.
Yeah.
So basically, I think there are very few companies that actually use these third-party blockers and sort of third-party IP sort of exclusion tools, because they don't know, and they don't know better.
Yeah.
And imagine the amount of, I don't know, I mean, proportionally per month, but that must represent a percentage every month of Google's revenue.
Probably we could retire from 1 month of those clicks, both of us.
Probably. But yeah, no, I mean, but I think, I guess, like swinging it a bit back towards like AI maybe, and sort of what I think that, and we've also touched on it in the past, but what a lot of people still haven't gotten right, and I think it's become even more difficult, is getting your GA4 set up correctly to
Yeah.
feed your automated AI, meaning algorithmic campaigns, with suffice data for it actually to bid on the correct clicks.
Yeah.
And and I think like it already starts there. And I think that even though we're almost at the end of 2023, the end of Universal, there's a lot of companies that haven't adjusted and haven't really put the right emphasis in there, even though that they might be spending quite a lot of money on Google.
You're right, Alex. AI, particularly on GA4, is something that companies are not aligned with. But it's also interesting that actually just setting it up, you potentially could put your business in jeopardy, because I literally seen probably 70% of the clients that told us, no, we can do the setup ourselves. We have our developer, double counting conversions. Because for whatever reason, Google recommends as a setting for conversion goal to count multiple event per session. So technically, if somebody visits a thank you page and refreshes the thank you page, it counts it as two conversions. It uploads to Google as two conversions. So AI is smart, but I feel, as you say, the marketeers need to do a lot of strategy behind it, because otherwise this AI might backfire on you.
And I think there's yet a lack of fully acceptance to this, because Universal was, for example, so easy to
To use,
set
yeah.
up. And I mean, we've ran a couple of these experiments now, actually very recently, because I mean, firstly, I'll iterate what GA4 is about. It's supposed to provide to to Google Ads, but it's supposed to provide sort of the machine learning mechanism of compounding learning to be able to improve sort of the overall performance of your Google Ads, and
Yeah.
particularly if you run them in a smart bidding format, and particularly in PMax,
Yeah.
or maybe demand, which is I guess one of their later ones. But they count them so differently. So we did a direct connector via Google Tag
Yeah.
directly into Google Ads, and then we did one via GA4. And of course, because Google Ads, they have a different way of attributing conversions than GA4. Actually, the percentages are so much higher in Google on the direct connector from Google Tag Management.
Yeah.
So there are still a lot of doubters out there in terms of, is this really true? So
Yeah.
this is what that this is what Google says, and that what GA4 is supposed to deliver. But if I sit here, my only responsibility in this organization, or as say I work towards my client, is to deliver high value to my client within paid marketing only. Do you think I'll sort of go through the intricacies of setting up GA4 and sort of ensuring that that connects correctly? No, I'll go with the easier one that attributes more conversions to my work.
Yeah.
So it's an odd one. We live in this. I'm super excited about AI. I'm super excited about sort of what is here right now, because it's a bit of a revolution. It's a shakeup.
Yeah.
And whatever was will no longer be. Um, and
Yeah.
it's an amazing opportunity.
I think something that I wanted to kind of clarify, though, is that it's something that has been bothering me quite a lot, because AI and smart stuff, not dumb stuff, smart stuff, are supposed to make your life easier, right? But I feel that with GA4, Google is basically telling anybody that is not relatively experienced at this, you cannot set it up by yourself. Because, yeah, you can install the code and you're done. But now all the other additional components, including the way they now set up goals and events, has become more complex. So I feel that it is smart for Google, because they basically can connect to the campaigns, they can do optimizations and things of that sort, but it is not smart for users and companies, because it is going to make their life more difficult effectively.
But I mean, then ask then yourself, what is really GA4? Because GA4 is, again, I'd say like the black and white side of GA4 is your own measurement tool, where you decide what events that is actually important. You are able to customize that exactly according to your company.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
you
they
need
try
to
to do.
You need to have somebody that knows how to do that.
Of course, but this is we're sort of now in like this crossroad and the caveat of where Universal was relatively squared. This is the box that you get, and it will work in this box. I take it; it's for free, and everyone took it because it was free.
Yeah.
But now, like I mean, they've started Google themselves silently have now slowly but surely started sort of doing tests about removing third-party cookies. So soon, in about a year's time, 12 months from now, you won't even have third-party cookies.
Yeah, we are gonna be all on a diet without cookies, Alex.
Yep, it's cute, beautiful, no?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And but like all of a sudden, if you take what is about to come into account, and instead of counting cookies, which or yeah, cookies per definition in Universal, we're now counting users,
Yeah.
which you can actually enrich very well with the help of APIs, and therefore actually your GA4 can actually be extremely rich if you don't live in a GDPR country.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I moved away from Europe, and I'm very glad that I did, is because basically in Europe you're screwed. Like there's not much you can do. But you know what's interesting though, Alex, that all you're saying is correct. Like we are moving in a very smart world when it comes to that. But then, as the example from the CPC campaigns and the problems with bidding, right, and the invalid clicks, there are some very obvious improvements that are not being done. I was talking to a client the other day, and he was like, "Oh, I want to do call tracking on my campaigns." So we put the numbers on the website. The click comes, they get a call. The call is Gcli, the click Google Click ID. That was to HubSpot. If the call becomes a conversion, we upload it back on AdWords. We have the conversion, and then the client asked me, "Oh, can you also integrate my call extension?" And I realized it hit me like out of the blue. There is no way to get the click ID from a call on the call extension. So you cannot count actual conversion. Either track calls by call lengths, and that's a conversion, which is not a true number, or there is no way to do an offline conversion upload for a call to the call extension because they come without a click ID because they never get to your site. And I was like, why didn't they ever fix that? It's like, similar to the spam clicks. That's such an important thing for advertiser, and I'm so surprised how all of this fancy stuff, user cookies, all of that, in a year they got it done. But the simplest task of tracking the click ID of a call extension call to be able to bring it in a HubSpot or a CRM and then upload it back, it's impossible to do. I called HubSpot, I called Google, I had multiple conversations, it's not doable. Isn't that funny?
I mean, I think I'm not trying to defend anyone. I think that I think two of the things that you particularly have mentioned here are features that should be added. Then it's just a matter of, based on the current roadmap, if they will be. And I mean, we should maybe just throw out a bit of a LinkedIn survey to see how many others that are actually really wanting these.
Yeah, but let's say you offer click to call ads on Google, but then you don't offer me the way to track a conversion out of the call other than listening to the call and manually track it, but I cannot upload it back in AdWords. Now that seems to me an efficiency that shouldn't be there if all the other stuff are done. I just feel like, there are maybe not all advertisers need to click to call, but you offer a call extension, you offer click to call campaign, you tell me that I need to put a call extension because it's so good for my campaigns. But then you're also telling me, by the way, you can only optimize for call lengths. You cannot optimize for conversion because we don't give you a click ID.
I mean, I think case closed, eh?
Yeah.
I mean, and I mean, I think it's definitely something that has been missed, and I think, I mean, it's for sure, if you're trying to localize your campaigns, it's super important to do that, to have this. Um, but I think they're trying to sort of settle the dust with, I don't know, Google My Business in that instance instead. But I don't know actually why that hasn't sort of been. But I guess the demand hasn't been high enough, or you know, not enough people have screamed.
Yeah, I mean that's true. That's probably true. But no, I think it's all very interesting, Alex, because next week, in 2 weeks from now, we are gonna talk about actually the cookieless world that we are gonna walk into. But as you guys can see, there is no real way to isolate the problem because all of the things are interconnected. Today we're talking about CPC bidding, but as you guys have seen, CPC bidding brings a whole new set of problematic when it comes to discussing that. But I would say, Alex, in order to like wrap up today's topic, I guess we are in pretty much agreement that each bidding type that Google has actually has a very good use, depending on what you're trying to achieve and the strategy, right? Because CPC bidding actually it has a good use, but we also learned that there are a lot of problems out there that maybe a IP address blocker is gonna be needed when you go for a campaign that is more on the broad spectrum. Would you agree? Like, do you say that ideally in a relatively large client, you might actually end up using every single bit type that there is out there?
I mean, I'd say for definitely for a bigger one, um, I think it would be started, it will be experimented with, um, not using Google Ads experimental feature, but more as something more of a standalone experiments to sort of see if one campaign is doing better than or rather the one bid type is sort of doing better than the other. To trying to sort of enrich the data.
Yeah.
And again, it's, I think, and if you guys out there listening, I mean, let your data guide you. um I mean, part of why something that is part algorithmic is supposed to be slightly better than what we are able to sort of our output is because it is using data to make decisions. uh, and it sort of skips so-called intuition and what we want to sort of enrich things with. So I think, if if an algorithm keeps doing the same thing for a long enough time, it will do it better than. I mean, Rocco, you've been in the game for 15 plus years. I've been in it something similar. It will be doing that much faster, but you need enough data for that algorithm to train on.
Yeah,
And
and the nice part is that also for local businesses, let's say you have a small restaurant and you want to target a 5 mile radius. Well, technically, you can use a CPC campaign to get maximum exposure, but you can, if you link up your Google My Business profile, now you can optimize for phone calls, request for directions, right? So
yeah,
technically, the AI it adapts to the kind of business you have as long as you say you provide the right type of data.
and I think like that is today the biggest problem. I think the amount of clients that I've come across, the companies that I've worked at that say that they collect data is abundant. Everyone is collecting data. But when you actually start asking the questions on how the data actually has been put together and formatted and structured so that it actually is useful,
Yeah.
then people start asking, looking at each other, it's like, whew, was that included in the JD? Often that's not the case. Like there's a lot of data that goes into this data center or data lake, but it's super unstructured. And then they're like, what should we do with this now?
Yeah, nothing.
Basically. So I think like data is difficult. And I think data is getting easier.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if you want to be certain, to sort of, for to get GA4 and your Google Ads and potentially Meta up and running properly as well. Ensure that you have someone that knows what they do, and that monitors and ensures that it's not just a quick fix implementation. It takes 24 hours for, say, a new event to actually properly trigger. It is a
I think you
process.
know what, Alex. One funny thing is that ensure you have somebody that knows what to do. In this industry, what I've learned is that if you ask the same question to 5 people, you're gonna get 4 times the same answer and 1 time the correct answer. So usually the people that give you the same answer, they're giving you the wrong suggestions in this industry. So ask more people and think more of the one that give you the different answer, because it probably means he has more experience. Would you agree on that?
No, for sure. And I mean, I think additionally, we're almost like in this industry as well, that everything is replicable. You can copy paste everything, but if you're able to think slightly different, and you've sort of tested and it works, you get an upper hand, if not for just a microsecond,
Yeah.
and that will play in your hands.
Oh, that would make a huge difference.
Yeah. So I mean, I work with someone that has been sort of been in this field for suffice amount of time. He also can sort of pinpoint the current errors in terms of the current setup, and how to find workarounds on them. Because the difficulty here, I think, Rocco, and I think what sort of, I guess, excludes your methodology there, or like of asking 5 people for wool, is that there are so many different ways to skin GA4 and ensure that the data is being captured properly. There's not just one way.
Correct. That is correct. And you always want to find the best way that works for your business. So usually the cookie cutter answer is not the right answer, because yeah, your business has your own needs, unless you literally, I know every business, like literally, there is no way to not make it custom. But Alex, we are getting toward the end of our time. That was a very nice chat. It made me very excited for the chat we're going to have in 2 weeks, which is going to be
Yeah, I mean, that's super. I mean, I've been excited for this for about 2 years.
I know Alex has been writing me. We should talk about that, and I feel that you are ready for that talk. You are like getting yourself prepared mentally, because it's gonna. I'm thinking gonna do a lot of talking in 2 weeks. I'm very excited about it.
But come on, Google postponed it. The cookies were already supposed to have been gone.
So it's true.
We would have had a different playfield already.
No, that is true, Alex. And stay on the line after the call. I just would like to greet you personally. I would like to wish everybody from the US a happy Thanksgiving next week. We're going to talk the week after Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for listening. Many of you were today, guys. And in 2 weeks, don't forget, we're going to have a very interesting episode with Alex about the cookieless tracking. Alex, thank you so much again. I know you are taking a small vacation with family, so thank you for joining regardless.
I mean, as someone that runs your own business, you're never on holiday.
Yeah, I mean, the best version of vacation with us is changing desk. That's probably what you did,
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Thank you so much for joining, Alex.
Thank you.
Everyone,
have a good one, man.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Yeah.